Sure. Trying to. Sometimes my mouse doesn't let me. Oh, good to see so many people. Great.
Good evening.
Hello. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us tonight. Let people keep connecting. All right, I want to welcome those of you who have joined us. And again, if you're able to put on the video, that's wonderful. If not, I understand. And I will use the chat area. We're going to start with a meditation just right off the bat. So as people are joining, they can join us in the practice. As a reminder, start with your feet on the floor. Maybe you're seated, and both feet, if you typically cross your legs, I'm going to ask that you just notice what it feels like to uncross the legs and have both feet flat on the floor. And this is about becoming aware of this body of ours, this one and only precious body we have. So you might be barefoot, but just get your feet on the floor and then follow with your mind's attention up your calves to the knees, the thighs, and the buttocks sitting on the chair, or you might be on a cushion or couch. So just notice how your body is sitting and the chair or the couch is supporting you. And then pay attention to your posture. Your back straight, not rigid. Shoulders, maybe noticing them up by the ears, and see if you can just drop them down. Hands in your lap. And gazing downward. And if you're comfortable, closing your eyes. So coming fully into this body of yours. Noticing the thoughts of work, the day, home, family, friends, and turning all of your attention on the connection of your body with the chair. Notice how it feels, maybe soft or hard. Our intention is to cultivate relaxed bodies, letting you rest as the mind is focused and alert. Remembering when the mind is focused, the body is safe and able to rest and digest. So at the beginning of any practice in the formal sitting, we scan our body. Notice if there's any tension. And if there is, maybe it's in the head, the neck, the shoulders, arms, hands. Wherever the tension may be, we take some long, deep, slow breaths all the way into that area where the tension exists. Just noticing if we can soften and cushion and release some of the tension. Body's worked hard. It's been going all day without any attention, and the mind has just drifted. This is the time to check into the body, fully awake and fully aware. Once we've checked in, maybe we've softened areas of tension. We've become aware of them. The mind is focused. We now choose our anchor, possibly the breath entering the nostrils, or maybe we feel it at the chest or the belly on the inhale or the exhale. Or maybe we use sound as our grounding and anchor. My voice, sounds of your body, or sounds that are immediately around you, coming and going, all in the present. Another anchor is exploring the sensations of the hands or the feet. Whenever the mind drifts, as it will, we simply return to our anchor again and again. This is a practice of exercising that muscle of the mind to be present, attentive, and focused. And when you're ready, join me in taking some deep breaths, long, slow, conscious breaths, all the way down from the tips of your nostrils through the chest into your belly and exhaling out. And repeating. And one last time. And now join me in this space on Zoom in this practice. I want to welcome you back. It's good to have you. Appreciate you dedicating time to take care of yourself. Mindfulness is a tool of self-care. It is a different level of self-care. If you were with us in week 1, you know that the mind can generate up to 70,000 thoughts, and it drifts about 50% of the time. And whenever we're drifting, we tend not to be, we're clearly not in the present. And science has shown that we are sometimes less happy when we let our minds just drift. We're either numbing out or ignoring, or we're exhausted, yet our body can't rest. So mindfulness is a tool to help with practicing meditation formally, so that when you go about your day and things happen, you have tools and access to be skillful in how you respond and take care of yourself first and foremost. It's not what you're used to, but it's a beautiful habit that will give you more and more energy the more you practice. So I'm curious just to, if people would put in the chat where they tend to anchor. So if you're most comfortable, or if the feeling of anchoring on the breath, maybe at the nostrils, the chest, or the belly, or maybe it's the sensations of the hands or the feet, or sound. So just tell me what you've been playing with in terms of anchoring, knowing that's what holds us steady and brings us back to this clarity. We know our minds drift. We know they go off in thought without even letting them or inviting them to. They just have their own little activity. So let me know how you're anchoring and what your practice has been, and if there are any questions from the first 2 weeks of practice. So I'm going to give you a moment to fill in the chat for that. I like that. Breathing, intentionally have to concentrate. Okay. Sound, um, sensation and connection between feet and floor, back and chair. Yeah, I use my feet a lot for finding it's a way for me in the middle of an activity to kind of come back to the moment of feeling my feet, especially barefoot if I take my shoes off. Soothing voice. So there's some wonderful apps. If you're looking, use any of them, especially free ones are always worth trying. So I'm happy to see that some of you are exploring the anchoring and knowing what's of comfort to you, what brings you back to the moment, because that's what you want to be able to access as a tool, not only in your formal practice, which is when we sit and meditate, but when you're going through your day and trying to figure this out, that all of a sudden something happens. Could be an employee, a colleague, somebody says something, somebody gives a look. You can come back to from flipping that lid where the amygdala is of fight, fright, or freeze. And by breathing, grounding on the floor, listening to the sound, just come back to this prefrontal reasoning, logic, equanimity we talked about, and balance. So love that. Breathing from the belly, not something a lot of us do consistently. So tonight's lesson, I mean, we have worked on anchoring and breath, anchoring with sound. We did some practices around sound and external sounds, sounds of the body, silence, knowing there might be sounds that are irritating or pleasant or unpleasant. We're learning to be with things as they are. There's a lot of things we can't change or control. So we just want to be aware of that. And instead of having judgment and letting our minds go amok, is we want to just, that's an interesting sound, and listen to it and just be with the essence of it as if we've never heard it before. So we don't have any judgment or story about it. Same with noticing the sensations in the body. So tonight, we're going to do some more work in the body. Mindfulness is very much about awareness of the body. There is no question that everyone on this call with me tonight is very active in logic, reasoning, strategizing in the head. All successful people. You would, if you weren't, you wouldn't be here tonight. So there's no doubt you know how to think, you know how to plan, you know how to strategize, you know how to write, you know how to think through things. What we want to do tonight is come below the neck, down below the head, and pay very close attention to our body. So this is about moving meditation. And in traditional practices, Buddhist practice, even silent retreats, a lot of times you sit and meditate for hours. In other words, you might start at 6 a.m. and go till 9, 10 o'clock at night. And clearly your body has to move. So there are practices of walking meditation. And it's another way of connecting the mind and focusing it with the body. So the mind is still focused, but it's focused on the movement that we're making. And we just, we want to get a sense of how our body moves and pay attention to it, become very familiar with it. And I do want to say, and I can't see all of you. So if there's anyone that isn't mobile in terms of walking, I'm going to invite you to just sit in your chair, and you can either move your hands up with the breath as I refer to those that will be stepping, But I do want to give that feedback. So if there's anybody that needs or would enjoy having a different option, please let me know and I can accommodate. And that it's one of the things that we want to become aware of. So I'm going to invite you now to stand, and I want you can either stand behind your chair or close to a table if you want to hold on to it for balance, whatever works for you. And I'd like you to stand maybe just hip width distance apart, and know that um, our hips are never as wide as we think they are. In fact, they're really just almost like two fists between our arches of our feet. So just getting your feet and feeling your feet flat on the floor. You might be barefoot, you might have your shoes on or your sandals or slippers. Just notice how your feet feel. And then I want you to move up your knees and notice if your knees are above the ankles. And your body is really a gift in that it's aligned. And when we pay attention to the alignment, we can notice how that feels. For some of us, especially in my days in the school, my body would be exhausted, and if I saw a picture, I might have been slouching or something. So just becoming aware and giving it a little attention. So knees then, and then notice your hips and have them over the knees. And then your shoulders, just lift them up and drop them. And maybe have your chest out a little bit so your shoulders are over your hips. And the crown of the head up towards the ceiling. You might even imagine the sun above it or the sky. But this posture of confidence, standing. And just feel your body holding you, holding your head, breathing without you having to ask it to. You might even notice some sensations in your feet or your hands. So bring the mind's attention all the way down to your feet. And I want you to put the weight on the left foot. Just kind of lean even, straightening that left leg and lean on to the left. Notice how that feels on the left. Notice how the right leg feels. Maybe heavy, light, might be twitching. Just paying attention and noticing what's present and naming the sensations. Tingling, numb, cool. Now lower that left foot. Or now put the weight on the right foot. Heavy, leaning on it. And maybe the left foot comes up a little bit. Noticing how that feels. Noticing if the body is shifting, swaying. Maybe you feel the blood flowing through you as you're standing. And the practice is, if the mind drifts, as it will, is return to the sensations in the feet. And now lower the right. I want you to lean forward onto your toes very slowly, paying attention to what happens. Our toes are so critical in balance. Maybe can you feel the big toes and the pinky toes all touching, leaning forward. And now slowly put the feet back down and maybe lean back on the heels. Notice how that feels. Again, the mind is paying attention to the sensations in the feet. And now just standing to still and straight again. Gently lift the top, shift your torso from the waist up and the head to the right, feeling every motion as you move to the right, just gently. And now coming back to the center and shifting to the left. Notice how the body moves and what you're feeling. And come back to the center. Wonderful, thank you. Join me in this space. And if anybody's willing to just kind of type in the chat what you noticed, whatever it was. And it could be that your mind was busy. So write something about what you noticed in this time of focusing, because we're going to do some walking in a few minutes and I'll give those instructions. And this is also, I'll send, and I let Jamie know tonight that I'll make sure you get the handouts. I'll send all 1, 2, and 3, and I'll send also a copy of a description of a lot of sensations in the body. So as you start to pay attention to the body, you develop a vocabulary for this body. Feeling the tension leave the body, wonderful. My lower back is tighter than I realized. Good noticing. That's what we want to pay attention to. The more we know about the body, the more we can care for it. So one of the things that we do walking meditation, and if depending on where you are, I'm in Houston, and in Houston we have about 15 to 20 labyrinths. And if you're not familiar with what they are, they're a walking path, and they're used for meditation. And they have one way in and one way out. So you really don't have to think about where you're going. And when you walk, the intention is to always focus on the feet. So there is a wonderful Vietnamese monk called Thich Nhat Hanh. He is sometimes, and I'll make sure I reference him in my notes, so if you're interested in looking up his practices. He has a saying: when we drink coffee, we drink coffee. When we are eating, we are eating. Remember, I talked about eating and being aware. And when we are walking, we are walking. I don't know if any of you have walked somewhere and completely missed everything that you've around you. You know, you kind of look, I see the heads nodding up or thumbs up. So yeah, we can get from one place to another place and not even know. I've been known to walk into a room and not remembered why I walked into the room. But so that's how our mind can take us away from the moment. And, you know, people always say, stop and smell the roses. Well, we can only do that if we're even aware of whether we have roses or not around us. So there are times when you might be very activated. In other words, there's a lot of energy, could be for whatever emotions that have come up, and sitting still to meditate may not work. Could be a reality. There are times when sitting and saying, I'm going to spend 5 minutes sitting and meditating isn't going to work. So an alternative is to move and walk. So I want to offer some different styles of walking meditation that you can practice. And we're going to do a few of them tonight. And I see somebody said that's so true about forgetfulness. And the reality is we forget a lot because we're either multitasking or we've just gone, you know, kind of numbed out, either watching or binge watching some TV show or playing a game on our iPads or electronics, or, you know, just shifting and looking at pictures on our iPhone, whatever it is. There's lots of ways we disengage and forget. The mind just goes off. So remember early on, I talked about the definition of mindfulness is about paying attention in the present moment with things as they are, with an openness, a curiosity, and a kindness. And what we're doing is we're rewiring our brain to be where we want it to be, knowing that it loves to go off somewhere else, either the past, future, judging, or comparing. So if you're willing to, I'm going to invite you to stand up again. And this time you're going to take, I'm going to say 5 to 6 steps. You determine what the space is on your own, but I want you to stand up in sort of that same posture. So when you get into a walking, you're always standing with your feet hip width distance. Notice the alignment of your knees over the ankles, the hips, the shoulders over the hips, and the head up towards the ceiling. The crown of the head is up. And in this practice, you're simply going to take, I'm going to offer, let's take 6 steps forward when I say to start. And what I want you to do as you step before you go is to notice each step. Notice your right foot lifting and going down in your left foot. And when you get to the 6th step, I want you to stop, align your body, take a couple breaths, notice how you feel, and then slowly turn around and walk back. And I want you to do that at least twice. So when you're ready, taking an inhale in, and then begin your steps, noticing each time you lift your foot and place it down, going slowly, just noticing how the movement feels. And when you get to the 6th, you stop, check in with the body, take some breaths, turn around, and return to your starting point. And then again, pausing, checking in with the body, and repeating the process again. And walking another 6 steps. Wonderful. So before I have you do anything in the chat, we're going to do a different type of stepping. I appreciate you doing this. So stay standing if you're able to. And again, if you're not, I encourage you to either just move your arms slowly up overhead as you inhale and exhale, being aware of the body. On this one, I want you to do the same, similar walking. And as you're lifting, I want you to begin to notice the sensation of your foot. As you lift it, notice the toes, the arch, the heel. And I want you to go slow. This is not going to be your natural walk. I want you to just notice how that feels as you lift each foot intentionally, walking at least 6 steps, gazing down, and paying attention to the sensations in each of your feet, the left foot and the right foot, maybe the toes, the arch, the heel, the ankle. As you move those 6 steps, pause, breathe, check in, And notice if the mind goes somewhere. Just notice it and come back to the breath and the sensations in your feet. Repeating it again. Wonderful. Um, so I want to thank you for doing that with me. Now, what I'm going to invite you to do, one more, and remembering when we walk, right? So I want you to just walk naturally around your space. And as you're walking, keep your mind focused on just your natural walk and kind of look around at things. Look what you see about you and just kind of walk around your own space and keep your mind focused on walking and what you're seeing. So go and I will call you back in a few moments, but just walk naturally, paying attention, maybe exploring the temperature, the textures, the touch, pressure, toes. Great. All right. I'm going to invite everyone to come back and let you sit down. And I want to invite you to write what you noticed or you learned and what maybe some of the sensations that you felt and what you noticed that you might not have noticed before about your body or the space that you walked around in. So take a few moments. Um, and jot down whatever it was that you noticed in that exercise of walking meditation and paying attention. Muscles are somewhat tight, trying to relax. So noticing that and maybe maybe trying to be as specific as you can about whether there's sensation of tightness in the toe or the ankle or where which muscle and what you notice. So this is becoming more and more intimate, as if you were witnessing and describing the sensations as you to someone else, but these are yours. So it's like, wow, there's heat, there's tightness throbbing in my big toe right now. Or when I was moving, my right foot was a little shaky and my left foot was heavy. Checking in and becoming familiar. We're so unaware of our bodies. And I may not have shared this early, but one of the statistics we know about doctor's visits, and it's across the board for most Americans, is that we go to the doctor often, and something like 80, close to 85% of doctor visits have nothing to do with the physical health. A lot of aches and pains that people experience, but they're unfamiliar with being able to name the exact pain. And it's not physical, which means it's typically psychological. For me, I was one of those statistics. So walking slowly made it harder. Yeah, it is. We don't pay attention. So good noticing that. Feet felt heavy. That they're exhausted too. That they hold you all day. Felt like my kidneys are pulling a little. Okay, that's the thighs and the legs. Lower back is tight. Right foot isn't as stable as the left. Paying attention. So thank you for these. This is helpful. And it is part of what, as we move through week 3, 4, 5, and 6, being familiar with the body and how we notice things in the body will come to light to you. And understanding that, the amygdala that we talked about typically comes from the body, reacts in our body first, and then our mind goes, into stories. So one of the things that I want to invite you to consider, maybe going into work next time you go in. And of course, it's, I'm not sure we can all walk into work in this meditative state of slowness and, kind of sloth like. But I want you to just um, walk and notice everything around you. Walk it as you're moving and you're paying attention to your breath and your feet. Notice what's around you. One of the minor ones that we just did was I had you walk naturally and just notice your surroundings. And that's called an open walk, open awareness, kind of looking and noticing what, things are around your own home. And you might do it after this call. And because because think we're familiar, we stop to notice things. We did this in a school with students in their cafeteria, and they were 6th graders or 5th graders. I'm sorry, 5th graders, and had them walk silently around their cafeteria. Now, this was a cafeteria they'd spent years in, and they ended up at listing 40 to 50 items, many of which they had never noticed before, because we just stopped looking. We don't necessarily pay attention. We think we've been there, and so we go on autopilot. We don't notice the color of the chairs we're sitting in. We don't notice the color of the rug or the painting in the room. So another way to get present is to open up our senses. Could be the sight of seeing things and saying, okay, I'm in this room, I'm attending this staff meeting or other meeting. I like that. We think we already know it. Exactly. Yeah. But if I asked you to name the color of the building you work in, the walls or the tables or the chairs. So it's another way to become present. So just like we use sound to meditate, we can use sight and open awareness. What we don't want to do is go to story. And what you might notice when you're looking at the color of the walls or the chairs is, I wouldn't have painted them that color, or I don't, that's not the best color. Notice when your mind goes to judgment, right? Or, oh, I like the other wall better, or I like the other chair better. Notice when your mind goes to comparing, and just try to notice and say, wow, okay, nothing I can do about it. That's the color it is. What we're doing is learning to have this muscle of the mind be present and not take us off on, the past of what happened earlier or the future of which we can't predict, or judging and comparing because we can't change it. Um, Questions about walking meditation and open awareness. Any comments or questions? You're welcome to talk on through the mic if you'd like, or put it in the chat, and I'll notice to catch it. Um,
I had a question. Can you
yes,
hear me?
yes, I can,
Uh,
Ricardo.
on on the walking meditation. I mean, typically, how many minutes should we strive for, or is that kind of similar to the other ones that we're doing?
So, thank you for asking that. A walking meditation can be, what I will offer you is the standard walking, or the traditional is doing 10 steps, right? Going 10 steps out, pausing, exactly, what you were doing with me, checking in with the body, and then returning 10 steps. Anywhere from 15 to 45 minutes. On silent retreats, which I did for my certification, and I've done several of them, because you do meditate from 6 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. We typically do 45 minutes of walking meditation, anywhere from 15 minutes to 45 minutes, and that's to allow the body to have some movement. But again, it's a way of concentration. So you can, walking from your car to your office is a place where you can be fully aware as you walk in, whatever that time frame is. The main, I mean, the most important thing is to just practice. So whether it's 5 minutes or 10 or 40 or 20, ideally 20 minutes of meditation is eventually where a good practice is. Doesn't have to be all day like silent retreats. It doesn't have to be 45 minutes, but practicing is key. I hope that helped, Ricardo. I want to offer that, if you're activated and the mind is busy, and you can get the body to get concentrated by syncing your breath with your body, or moving and your arms fast, and just breathe, 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 so your mind isn't in story, is a great way to also practice. It is about getting the mind to be focused. Can the time be broken up throughout the day? Absolutely. And what I want to offer is, one of my early practice. I don't know if people have the 2-minute toothbrush, oral, that brushes and it goes by itself. When I first started practicing, and honestly, I still work on this because I still find myself moving. I used to be in the kitchen with my toothbrush, or I'd be out in the yard with my toothbrush, or I'd be in the living room with my toothbrush. And I thought, 2 minutes, I should be able to stand still and just be with brushing my teeth, pay attention to my brushing my teeth. So any amount of practice of concentrating the mind to be present with what's happening is beneficial. So might be when you're making tea, if you drink tea and you've got a tea kettle on, or you're brewing coffee as the coffee pot is making the coffee, just standing there and paying attention. What that we are doing is getting the mind to focus and pay attention and notice when it gets lost. Those are ways to integrate it into your day. The other way is to take a break at your desk. And we can do, we're going to do a few practices just sitting in our chair with body. So if you're at your desk, ways to practice meditation in a formal way might be only 3 to 5 minutes, but it's resting the body because the alert mind can be alert. So it can be broken up. And again, the more you do it, there may be a desire or an intention on your part to spend more time doing it. I do some stretches before I get out of bed, and I intentionally pay attention to my body. I breathe in deeply. I notice the tips of my toes to my fingertips, all of which I'm grateful for having. Um, so, I mean, that's a part of the practice is acknowledging gratitude for whatever ability we have, because there are people who aren't mobile like I am, or some of us on this call. Um, um, I have a niece, a first cousin who became a paraplegic at 30, and she's in a wheelchair and has no feelings below her waist. Um, so being grateful for my ability and my mobility of paying attention and taking care of this body has become very important to me. And she does what she can and has a lot of movement, and with technology, for which I'm grateful for, can do a lot also, but not at the same capacity I can. So this practice of mindfulness far, is far reaching beyond even our bodies, as we pay attention to our bodies and our senses of sight, of touch. When I said feel your feet on the floor, if you were barefoot, maybe you felt your toes touching the rug or hardwood, or feeling the shoes or your socks or slippers. Hearing sound. I mean, I wear hearing aids today, but I'm grateful I have that technology. Not everyone has the ability to hear a lot. The other is smelling. And of course, we know that people who have experienced COVID, some of them still have a loss of smell. And so what we want to be aware of those things that right now we can benefit from and practice, including taste. Again, not everyone has the sense of taste. So when we're eating food, recognizing those flavors and this taste and the senses and the fragrance, possibly, and sight. So another part of the practice is that open awareness. One that can be very calming, and I mentioned this last week, I think, was also getting in nature. And in this, you could do right outside your door. When you walk outside into the air, is just pause. Again, standing in that posture, which is also a posture of yoga, of having everything aligned, your body being confident, so checking into the body. Think about how often before starting this, you paid attention to your body very carefully. So checking in and standing confidently outside, maybe under a tree or near some flowers. And just stand there. When you have your balance, close your eyes or gaze downward. And notice any sounds that might be out there. Might be the rustling of the leaves if there's a breeze blowing. Could be birds singing or pets barking, people on the streets. And then open your sense of smell if you're able. Notice what the aroma, the fragrance, nature. Notice if there's any scent in the air, or flowers, grass. And then you might be so brave to open your mouth and stick your tongue out and see if there's any taste in the air. stale, dry, moist. And if you're home, you might be barefoot and feel the dirt or the concrete, warm, hot, cold, rough, soft, the grass. Just notice those, the touch that you have. And if you've closed your eyes, slowly open your eyes and look around. Notice the colors, the forms, the shapes. Just being aware. That is how we practice, and we can rest our body when our mind is alert. When your mind's lost in thought, you're not being productive. There's a time certainly when we sit and plan. There's a time when we certainly sit and write or read. But some of us have said we get lost. We forget where we are. We're on autopilot. And then something happens. And we're not even paying attention to a friend who's telling us a story. So paying attention and being aware is critical. And nature can be a very calming. It's one of the things I learned to do for myself when I would be at work all day and I couldn't go and sit for 20 minutes. I would just go outside for that moment of standing and kind of go through the senses to get me back to this, rest and digest. Remember what happens when we take deep breaths? We get into that rest and digest. So I think Ricardo went outside and is practicing some of it, which is great. So I invite you to try that. It's a wonderful thing to do, and nature does make a difference. So I do want to hear from what people have noticed in their body. We spend too much time in our heads, and we know so little about our bodies. And this is one of those ways to, and somebody mentioned the lower back and the pain. Next week, we're going to work with pain in our body. We're going to start to figure out, so how does this mindfulness practice of awareness help? And the early research was started because of people with chronic pain and pain in their bodies. And it doesn't necessarily take the pain away, but what it will do is change the relationship you have with pain. So this is why we're spending more and more time in our bodies, because we want to get to know them. And we want to take care of this because it's the only body we have. It's what we have in this moment. All right, so let's do some practice right in our chair. So not everyone gets the option to get up and go away and, out in nature, or do a walking on a labyrinth or a track. So let's say you're just in your chair. So what we're going to do here is, and if you can, if you're at your desk, I'm going to do it at my own area, is again, posture is good. Back is straight, not rigid. Check into your body. Feet on the floor, both feet. You might be barefoot or not. And I want you to gaze downward or close your eyes if you're comfortable. Then I want you to slowly lift from the right knee. Just lift the foot up under your desk and maybe have it parallel to the floor. And then slowly release it. And then alternate with the left foot. Lifting it up as you inhale. And then exhaling and lowering it. So you're syncing the movement of your feet one at a time with the inhale, lifting the right foot up with the inhale, and then lowering it with the exhale. And this is syncing your movement with your breath. not your breath with the movement. So you breathe naturally and then just lift on the inhale and lower on the exhale. And do that a few more times. And now, with both feet on the floor, on your next inhale, lift both legs at the same time. Both feet, bringing them to parallel. And when you exhale, lowering them, following it completely with your breath. And of course, if the mind drifts, and it will, the practice is to return to the sensations of your feet, lifting and lowering. Maybe noticing how that feels in the whole body, or noticing how it feels in your feet. And then on your next exhale, let the feet rest flat on the floor, paying attention to both your feet, noticing the weight, light or heavy, difference between the right foot and the left. Maybe lifting the toes up on the right from the big toe to the pinky, and then lowering each toe, just noticing if you can. And then shifting to the left foot and lifting all the toes up from the big to the little, and then lowering them. Keeping the mind focused. And notice the difference between the 2 feet. Maybe the toes on one foot lifted easier than the other. We give very little attention to our toes, and yet they're the most important thing in our balance, in our walk, in our ability to move. We want to be curious, open, and approach our body with this kindness. And now shifting from your feet to your arms, maybe they're by your side. If you have arms on your chair, have your own arms outside that, and just slowly lift them up as you inhale, bringing them all the way up over, and notice if your shoulders are up by your ears and let them rest. And then exhaling down. Notice if the mind's busy, and bringing them back to the inhaling of the arms up. Slow and steady, going at your own breath. Every breath is different. And then exhaling. Just noticing how those sensations, maybe feeling the shoulders, the wings of the shoulders, the arms, the forearms. And exhaling down. Slow and steady. Raising up. Again. This time when you get to the top above your head, see if you can touch each finger to each finger from the left and the right, one at a time. The thumbs, the index, the middle, the ring finger, and the pinky. And do it again, touching each one, noticing the sensation of touch. And then having your hands come together, and then turning them outward and releasing down, slow. Bring them to your lap. And now following the breath, the nostrils, the chest, the belly, the in and the out. And slowly move your neck to the left and the right gently. The neck is precious, holds this head, can hold tension, lots of things said, unsaid. Just notice how it feels as you move it gently and slowly. And when you're ready, come back to your posture and join me in the space. And I want you to write how you're feeling now. Write what sensations, how your mind is, what you noticed, if you're relaxed or tight or tense, if the mind was busy and drifting or more focused and paying attention to the sensations. And if you can name them, great. Not, no worries. But whatever feedback you have for yourself of what you noticed in this exercise. Was tense and tight, but now more relaxed and loose and limber. Yeah, when we pay attention to our body and we're breathing intentionally, paying attention, sometimes the areas soften. So I'm glad you noticed that. Relaxed. Yeah, notice the creaking on my shoulders as my arms went up. Hearing sounds that you may have not known your body made. Mine was focused, more focused in this round. Upper back is tight, felt more relaxed overall. Good. That's the intention. So the practice of mindfulness is about giving us some ease and calm in whatever is happening. We can't control everything, but we can control our mind and we can focus it on our body so our body can rest. That's what we want to learn, is the power of concentration and focus. Relaxed, made me sweat. I like that. Also felt heavier at first and lighter towards the end. Shoulder and leg issues, but surprisingly, the exercise helped. I had tears. Feeling and connecting. There's an intimacy of it's a compassion, and it's, opens our heart when we slow down and pay attention to, especially to ourselves. Because if I know you well, and I know the profession well, we do very little for ourselves. We do a lot for others. So this is a key point, to take care of ourselves, for healthier, just healthier, of presence, of being there for the clients you serve, whether they're young children or adults, being present so that you don't get lost in thought and make judgments. The back of the neck felt tight. I could not lift each toe individually. Yeah, harder to lift both feet at the same time. So noticing, yeah, I didn't have feelings in my toes when I first started this practice. I didn't even pay attention to them. I do yoga today, and I'm a certified yoga teacher as a result of my practice. But becoming familiar with the body and touching even our fingers, being aware of the individual touch, touching our toes. Young infants, if you have access to infants, maybe you have one at home, or you have children, grandchildren, or cousins, notice how they play. They're able to move almost every little toe individually if you watch. And the more you do this, the gift is our mind connects to our body if we train it. Yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong are all practices of body and mind connection. And they are forms of meditation, just like walking. So I know in our Western society, we've made yoga very much about an exercise. I would offer, if you're ever in Houston and I'm teaching a class, it will be very much about your mind and your body and your breath, because yoga was intended to move the body intentionally, connecting the mind to the muscles and the sensations and the breath. So, when we move up, we're inhaling slowly. And then when we're going down, we're exhaling. Being able to balance is very much about concentration of mind. It isn't about, people who have natural balance. It's that people intentionally concentrate and pay attention. And with more and more practice, you get better and better at it. Same with meditation. It's not so much that you get better, but that you do it and you notice the benefits. So this is a practice, keeping that in mind. And remembering whatever you're doing, to be curious, to be open, and to approach it with kindness. Questions about any of that? So that is a form of meditation, when you intentionally focus the mind to pay attention to the movement of the body. It can be walking, it can be sitting at your desk, it can be, before you eat, you might do just a few breathing. You notice an email from someone that you're anxious about, instead of opening it right away, just take a couple stretches at your own pace, breathing in and breathing out, remembering that we're activating the vagus nerve when we are breathing intentionally. Oh, I'm glad to hear that you're getting value, so I appreciate that. It helps me. It's different to be on virtual, and I know you do this all day for some of you, so I can only imagine. So I'm grateful for your time on this. Thank you, Teresa, too. So the last piece of thing, and I've talked about gratitude a little bit, especially since I'm mobile and I'm able to move my body, I'm able to walk. One of the things we want to recognize is, and we did this a little bit when I talked about food prep and where food comes from, and the gratitude of, what people provide us and how we get what we get, is that not everyone has what we have the ability to do. And so there is a sense of gratitude for whatever it is we're able to do, to recognize that. Part of the research around this, and it was a study done out of SMU in Texas, that, the hypothesis was that people of religious faith, of any faith, and they crossed all the different type of faith-based groups, and their hypothesis was that people of faith were happier. And what they found was, when they did the study, and they went to all the different religions and etc., what they found was, it wasn't specifically any specific religion or faith, but it was the practice of gratitude. And so you may have heard, there's lots of podcasts, there's articles. Renee Brown does a lot around gratitude. Tara Brach, a lot of meditators and practicing meditation people and mindfulness talk about gratitude. And the gratitude practice can be waking up in the morning. For me, I'm just glad I'm alive again. As I said, I wake up stretching and I wiggle my fingers and I wiggle my toes, and I'm glad to be alive for the day. It's as simple as that. But I also go to bed at night and I think through my day and think of the few things or the many things that I'm grateful for in that day. And I've become much more intentional of being clear of what I'm grateful for. I think I've said to Jamie that, this opportunity to share this practice of mindfulness and self-care with others from my profession of education is a gift. I mean, I'm just so glad I get to do it, because I didn't know it when I was in my 20s, 30s, and 40s. I didn't start practicing until in my 50s. And so, but being familiar and just pausing, maybe at night, maybe it's before you eat. It's different than prayer in a sense. So there are many people who practice prayer. Gratitude is being specific on what you're grateful for. Whether it's the friend who called you when you were feeling down, or the person who gave you a hug when you were having a moment of just sadness. And we can do it by writing and keeping journals. I'm a big journal keeper, so I have lots of notes of things that I'm grateful for. We can also write personal notes. And so it's, again, taking the mind, focusing in, and being specific about what you're grateful for. It doesn't have to be endless lists. It could be 2 or 3 things at a specific time. We were teaching mindful eating in Puerto Rico. And one of the things we heard from one of our participants, he'd never had a grape. It was too expensive. They didn't grow grapes in Puerto Rico. And so it was his first time. And I realized I take grapes for granted. I can go to the store and buy them. So just knowing that there are people who have less and more than we do, possibly. But many times what we've learned from this research is that people are grateful for whatever they have. However little, that the gratitude of, I have this right here, right now, and I'm okay with it. And it's learning to be with what we have and not getting lost in what we don't or what we want. I mean, notice when that happens. I spend time with friends and they always want something else. And I'm like, yeah, but we've got this. Like, enjoy what's right here. And what we begin to learn is when we stay present, there's a sense of, I'm okay. I can be with this. And that's why we practice the formal meditation of sitting. And if you can do it 5 minutes, wonderful. If you can do it 10, just begin to notice how the benefits, what happens when you consistently do a little bit more, maybe. Yeah, I love that. So I want to give everyone a moment. We're going to just sit in silence. And I want you to think of the few things that you're grateful for, just quietly, without doing anything, just sitting still in that posture. Notice if the mind's gone off on story, and come back to what you're grateful for. And even repeat the same one over and over, whatever it may be. Now I want to invite you to, in the chat, write whatever specifically, if possible, what you're grateful for. Everything I have, especially my faith, great. And I do want you to learn to start to be really more specific. So I wrote, I'm grateful for my younger roommate who helped me, I should have said, learning technology and Zoom calls. Being in US, yes, grateful for today. So what about today, what you were grateful for? Sun shining? Was it rain that waters our plants? I was grateful for the rain this morning because my plants needed rain. So begin to think specifically. I shared walking is one of the times that I think about my cousin who is a paraplegic. So I'm very grateful for the fact that I have the mobility of my legs. And even though she's optimistic and she remains that one day there'll be technology that she can walk, she's still in a wheelchair. So being thankful for the opportunity to live the skills I've developed. Awesome. Friend leaving me her leftovers. Yes, when you're working hard, it's wonderful. For your spouse, all he does, I love that. My significant other made me coffee and brought it to me in bed this morning, so I was very happy. Home, family, and ability to work. Absolutely. Yeah. So notice how you start to feel when you think of what the specifics that you have when you think of the gratitude. And I want you to add this to your practice, whether it's a few minutes, whether it's when you wake up in the morning or you go to bed at night. Think about 2 to 3 specific things in that day that you're grateful for. I've had mornings when I'm grateful that my dog comes and licks me, because she's always there. Enjoy time with your niece, nephews, conversations with friends, career, health, even though I've had some challenges. Yeah, knowing that, relationships, nice. They're awesome. And I want to say how grateful I am to all of you who serve in this profession, whether it's the healthcare or the education. It's so critical. And there's no question that rarely do you get to do awareness and gratitude and recognition of all you do. Sanity, yeah. So I want to thank you. If there's questions, I'm going to stay on, and it's got about 10 minutes. So this can be, I'm also happy to lead us in a practice before we close. But I just want to see if there's any questions or comments that you're wondering about. I would like to have you practice some movement, maybe meditation movement, whether it's even going outside and doing the senses or walking, but certainly continuing that formal practice of meditation, of concentration. And that's what it is that helps you calm down. We did the body scan last week, and people had, we know our society is sleep deprived. You're not alone. And so finding ways to get the rest that you need in your body is critical in order to be your best self. So really paying attention and knowing how the breath can help calm the mind when it's concentrated. Um, yes, the handouts are going to come. I'm going to get those to Hannah tomorrow. So, but I am going to send all three. So week 1, 2, and 3 will come along with some descriptions of sensations in the body, just so you can start to, it's a vocabulary of becoming familiar with what we pay attention to in the body. Yeah, thank you, Jamie, for letting her know. I'm going to send them out to everyone and, referencing. So I appreciate that. I'm going to I'm going to invite people just to join me in a short meditation as a way of getting rested. Maybe you're getting ready to eat dinner or do some more lessons or planning and reading, studying, all the things that you have on your list. And maybe this will help you get more focused when you start it. So feet on the floor. Again, posture. Some may start sitting on the floor if that's comfortable for you on a cushion. If you do sit on the floor, what I would recommend, just because it's important for your body, is that you always have your hips higher than your knees. So, which is why we talk about sitting on a cushion. So when you're sitting, you can sit cross-legged if you'd like, but just try to elevate the hips, maybe with a pillow, 2 pillows. And again, back is straight, maybe natural curve, shoulders, just notice them, bringing the attention to them, and then tucking your chin slightly. And if you're comfortable, closing your eyes. And then bringing the mind's focus and attention to the anchor of your choice. Could be my voice or the sounds that are around you, including within the body. Possibly just the breath entering the nostrils or the chest or the body, the belly, and releasing, following the breath with your mind's attention so the body can relax and rest. With each breath, or it could be the focus on the sensations in the hands or the feet flat on the floor, the touch, just noticing what's present, giving the mind focus, and knowing when it drifts, as it will. It's a habit, it's a gift. This is the time to practice each breath, each sound, each sensation, allowing you to focus, concentrate, and let the body rest. Maybe breathing deep into the area where there's some tightness or achiness or pinching, whatever it might be. Maybe you just bring your mind's attention to the specific area. Feeling the ebb and flow, the rise and fall of each breath. Chest expanding, belly, and then caving as you exhale, releasing. When the thoughts come, practices to label thinking, worrying, judging, with a kindness, maybe a smile. Yep, comes. And exhale it out, just like clouds drifting in and wind blowing them out. When you're ready, take some deep breaths all the way in through the nostrils, the chest, following the breath deep into the belly, pausing, and then releasing through the mouth, and repeating again at your own pace, breathing deep in through the chest and the belly, and then releasing. And last time, inhaling deep into the belly and releasing. And when you're ready, slowly move your shoulders, maybe your head, and open your eyes. Join me in this space. Encourage you to practice. It's always good to add more time, and it's hard to find it, I know, but scheduling it might be helpful. Put it on. It's a gift for you. Just so taking care of yourself, knowing you're worth it, and just doing it, which means being present. So, again, any questions that come through, I'm happy to answer. You can see you'll see the handout sometime tomorrow. And as Jamie is always good about reminding people, I will be offering guided meditation. So it's another way to practice Monday evenings at 6:15 Central Time. So thank you again for being with us, Jamie. So grateful to you, AFT, and the Building Bridges for supporting this effort and caring enough to invest in all of those that are here. Be well, be kind, and remember to practice and breathe.
We'll see you all Monday evening. Have a
Great. Thank you,